Hi, I'm Paul the Escape into Film, and today we're talking about the indie drama, The Assistant. The Assistant is really anchored by one of the great film performances of the year. Julia Garner is so good and so understated. It is a performance that you need to remember, and it's worth watching and definitely worth seeking out. In short, this film follows Jane, a recent college grad, and she's this assistant to a very powerful person. You follow her through the day of her life, you get an idea of what her routine is, and then you also watch as she picks up on something that looks a little bit insidious, and she's confronted with an internal conflict about what to do. The secret weapon of The Assistant is the fact that it's kind of covertly and secretly a Harvey Weinstein Me Too scandal movie told from the perspective of somebody who's kind of in the trenches. Now, anyone interested in seeing this movie must know up front that this film is much more about the tone and the mood than huge plot moves. It's actually more of a character-centric film, how they react to certain things that are happening around them. The film's opening sequence follows Jane as she goes to work, and you get an idea of what her day looks like. It seems tedious. It's a lot of her getting coffee ready, her getting computers on. It's a lot of like, what does she do in the morning? But what this does do is it establishes just her daily routine. The fact that she does it joylessly. She just kind of goes through the motions of turning on lights, turning things on, cleaning things, scrubbing things, all before any of her coworkers show up for work. The Assistant is an achievement in quiet, non-verbal storytelling. Jane doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but she doesn't have to. Julia Garner's performance is so great because she doesn't say a whole lot, and what she does say is so cutting and so conflicted and so vulnerable, but you know exactly what she's feeling at any moment of the movie. Even with the minimal amount of dialogue that Julia Garner has, you get an idea of what Jane's day looks like. And increasingly, you get an idea of what Jane's emotional investment is. You have a real good insight into what she's feeling in any moment at any point in the movie. Earlier I said that this is effectively a Harvey Weinstein movie, but one of the more interesting choices that The Assistant makes is that her overbearing boss, who's very clear, if anybody knows anything about the lore of Harvey Weinstein, he's this guy who's volatile, he yells, he's very intimidating. He is completely off screen. He's a guy you only hear when he's on the phone. You only get a couple of his emails. Even though he is off screen, just his presence, even his absence looms over every moment of the movie in a way that you feel the urgency. There's a sense of tension and anxiety about where is he, what might happen, how is he going to react. You get the idea that everybody there is kind of walking on eggshells, not knowing how this boss will react to anything. Honestly, the first act of the movie, you don't really know what's going on or where this is going because you just watch Jane go through these kind of menial tasks. You get the idea that there might be something off or something wrong, but they're little clues that are kind of just dropped in inconspicuously. You don't really think anything of it in the moment. In totality, you get the idea that there's something very sinister going on. But the entire first act is about meticulous, patient world building. But as the movie unfolds, you get the idea of what Jane is picking up on and what she thinks is happening, and then what she chooses to do with that information. It really puts the viewer in the position of, well, how would you react if you had a boss you thought was doing something very inappropriate? We all live in this idea that, oh, I would be virtuous and I would do this, that, and the other. I would be a hero. But the film really puts you in the place of Jane. She's starting out in her career. She has aspirations. She has goals and dreams. How would taking down essentially a Hollywood mogul affect her career? Would it completely torpedo her dreams before she has a chance to realize them? So the film really does put the audience in the position of what would you do, also considering that you're not just doing something for the sake of what's right. Even if Jane wants to do something that's right, that's ethical, that we all would agree is the right thing to do. So fundamentally, The Assistant is more about the institutional culture that allows such behavior to fester and thrive, even when there's people who know what's going on, and maybe through self-denial or just their willful blindness, they ignore it because it's in their personal best interest. So it really puts the audience in a situation where you're surrounded by people who are incentivized to ignore something. And now what would you do? always remembering that you are a character who also has things to lose. It's really difficult to think about this movie in a vacuum, especially with whatever's going on in the news with Harvey Weinstein, but also in the context of Bombshell, which just came out a few months ago, starring Margot Robbie, Charlize Theron, and Nicole Kidman. Whereas Bombshell has a paranoia which infects everything in that movie, The Assistant has a pervasive tension. The Assistant economically weaponizes very simple things like just a phone ringing or the sound of an email, and all of a sudden you can tell they're on edge. As I watched the movie, I kept thinking of one quote that just kept clicking in my mind. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And that really is the thesis of this film, because you can get into the specifics of the industry and how it willfully ignored the actions, even the rumored actions, the things that people knew he was doing, but they were just too afraid to say out loud. Even if you remove that context from this film, you're still with a character who's internally constantly conflicted about what to do because she has a lot to lose as well. You're on a complete emotional journey with a character who's the focal point, who has no voice, but who is making some very astute observations, who wants to do something, and is struggling to figure out how to do the right thing. In the context of the Me Too movement, this movie really solidifies how the culture of this movie industry discourage people from coming forward and even raising concerns. And it shows why people might not take that extra step. And if you take an even bigger step back, you can then say the people who did come forward in real life had everything to lose and they still came forward. So it makes them all the more heroic for what they did. So for these reasons, I'm going to go ahead and give The Assistant a 5 out of 5. It's a slower film. It has almost no score, except for, the clattering of a keyboard and phone calls and such. Julia Garner's performance is incredibly strong. This is a movie that really puts you in her place. It's completely empathetic to her. The Assistant is a quiet film, and yet somehow still very intense and gripping. It's captivating because you're with Jane on her emotional journey. You can see every red flag going on around her, but because the audience is with Jane on her complete emotional journey as she wrestles with these internal conflicts, she knows what she thinks is happening. She knows what she has to do, and she's conflicted about how to even do that and what it could mean for her personally. And if you found this film review helpful or engaging or entertaining, please go ahead and consider giving it a like. It really helps out because this is a newer channel. And you can go ahead and subscribe because I'm going to be dropping all kinds of film reviews on different types of films, big and small, throughout the year. You can read more of my film reviews at escapeintofilm.com. And if you've seen The Assistant and you agree or disagree with some of my thoughts, please leave a comment in the comment section. I love talking to people about movies. At the end of the day, again, I'm not here to tell you what to think about a movie. I am really just trying to encourage, one, discourse, and two, I want everyone to see every movie of every type. So thank you very much for watching, and talk to you soon. Bye.